My name is Brian Snyder. I am the founder of Your Body Never Lies and the Your Body Never Lies College, which is a new mystery school online. I call it a college because it goes above and beyond anything that I believe you're able to learn anywhere else. I just haven't found it anywhere else. So what I have has taken me 30 years to figure out, and the college moves us through healing and into being able to move energy, perceive energy, and then expanding our intuition and our ability to manifest, and ultimately our ability to be in service in ever greater ways. If you'd like to check that out, come to yourbodyneverlies.org. I'd love to see you there. This video today, on Fridays, I do tips for spiritual expansion. And actually, I haven't thought about what I'm going to talk about yet today, but I am thirsty. So, one thing we could talk about is being here now. That's a huge piece of spiritual expansion, because when we fall out of the present moment, when we let our minds drag us into the past, or we start thinking about the future, we start missing out on a lot of information. The key to remaining here now is to remain in a state of feeling your body and of feeling the world around you, rather than thinking about the world around you and thinking about your body. Because thinking, as Krishnadas, I think I can quote him in that, says, thinking is sinking. It literally is. And, thinking is unconsciousness light. Thinking is like you're starting to go unconscious, and if you keep thinking and if you overthink, you can literally pass out. And you can tell when people are overthinking because they're not noticing what's going on around them. You could have a circle of 5 or 6 friends talking, and you bring up a subject that triggers someone, they start thinking about it, and pretty soon you notice they're not really paying attention to what you all are saying anymore. Why? Because, they're thinking about what's going on in their head, and they're falling out of the present moment. Being here now is one key. It's only one key, though. There's plenty of them. Another is unconditional love. And unconditional love is basically the opposite of judging. So anytime we find ourselves judging, if we just stop and go, oh, wow, that's getting me to discontinue being in a loving state, and just stop. And it doesn't matter really if you're judging as something bad or good, although bad usually does create more of a disconnection. But that judging or labeling of other things as not as much as what you'd like, or less than or more than, that, that just gets us thinking, for one. But that also pulls us out of the state of just feeling the love that's already everywhere. You don't have to learn how to love. You need to learn how to discontinue the stop lovingness, or the end of lovingness, or the squeezed lovingness that is created by judging. So just allow things to be the way they are. And pretty soon you'll realize that you're safe doing that, and you do not need to judge things to be safe. Another piece that's actually pretty big. I was going to start early and just leave this up, but I didn't. The unconditional love that actually makes a big difference is the love that we have for being ourselves. So, there's love for everything around you. There's love for the other. There's love for your spouse. There's love for your kids. There's all kinds of different shades of love. But really, when you're talking about a type of love, or a kind of love, or an avenue of love, those are all conditions. If I'm talking about the love I have for my wife, I've just set the condition of I'm going to talk about love, in this narrow, box or whatever. That is a condition. That's conditional love. I love her conditionally on the fact that, she's my wife, and I would love her anyway, even if we weren't married. It's not my point. But, the love there is because it's her. That's a condition. And it's a subtle condition, but it's still a condition. The only love that actually creates what some teachers call presence, which is actually a ridiculous word to use, is loving being ourself. And that's different than narcissus. It's different than loving our reflection. Loving our reflection, if you want to go down that path and find out how dark that hole goes, just start thinking about, or, thinking what other people think of you. And then imagine it being really good. And then, keep doing it until you can't stop. Not a good place to go. Narcissus perceives himself as the other, or they're perceiving this other that doesn't exist. And, that's a different can of worms. When we love what we perceive to be the other, we're actually acknowledging a disconnection. And, that's a push me, pull you. It's really part of the dance that keeps the universe going, is this idea that there's another over there, there's distance, and that, okay, I can love that or learn to love that thing over there. But the fact is, ultimately, there really is no distance. Quantum physics tells us that. What we're loving is a reflection of ourself, but not in narcissus terms. It's actually just ourself. And that is part of what the college leads you to. And I'm working on the senior semester right now. It's not actually available to anybody. But senior semester and teacher training is really about that point, because ultimately there's only one. So if there's only one, why would we want to get stuck in this, like, how to deal or cope with there being another? Like, that makes no sense. So, tips for spiritual expansion, June 10th. There's many directions. I mean, there's an infinite number of directions in the world, but they're basically delineated by these 6. So there's up, down, left, right, and forward, backward. And these describe every direction that there can be. Any direction that you can perceive or feel in the world is either one of these 6 or a combination. So that's a combination of several, maybe. And of course, I've got a 2-dimensional drawing of a 3-dimensional reality. It's not really going to work. But you could feel this pushing away, pulling back, pushing away, pulling back, and then up, down, pushing away, pulling back. Those are the directions in which we give and receive energy. And there's another one, though. Well, let's talk about this. So if I see my friend Joe over there, or Betty Sue, or whoever, and I love them, I might be sending love energy in that direction. Wow. And, if you want to perceive love as like beam energy that you can send, cool. But, and the people standing over here, I mentioned this in another video a couple years ago, I think. People standing over here can perceive that I'm loving that person, right? Other people in the room, like if you walk into a cocktail party and you see your lover and like, wow, you suddenly like feel all the love you have for them. People around you feel it and notice it, and they can feel that it's directed at that person and that it's conditional for them, right? But if you instead love just being yourself, because it's really fun to be you and you like being you and you don't wish you were somebody else because, hey, your uniqueness is really fun, that kind of self-love, which is not loving your reflection, it's just loving being you, that is a different direction. And what it looks like is a circle like this, because it's coming right back at you. So you might recognize this. This is basically 2 directions, 4 directions, 6 directions. Maybe I could go through the center. So 6 directions like that. And then this other direction all the way around. So just as a side note, that shape is built across. So if you imagine this, and we're looking at it at an angle. So if you look at it straight on from this direction, it actually looks like this. You don't see, the front and back posts, if you want to call them that, or directions, are a dot in the center. So you don't see them. All you see is the cross. And this circle also disappears inside the top of that. And if you spin it another 90 degrees, then you see this. So that's obviously a Christian cross, and this is an Ankh. So they both represent, on one level anyway, the same thing. Anyway, that's just a footnote, historical footnote, just so you know, this doesn't come out of nowhere. When we love ourselves, that love that we feel radiates out in all directions. Literally, when that energy, when it falls in on itself, you become like a torus donut of energy. And if you know what that looks like, torus donut, energy is going like this into a center. So it literally looks like a donut like this with the edges going in, and the energy is going into the center and then coming around again, and it keeps coming in like this. And that is what happens when you literally love being yourself. And that energy is the same as ki or chi, there's plenty of names for it. But this life energy radiates out now in all directions from this. Like that, in all directions. So now if you walk into a cocktail party and you love being you, yeah, you might see your lover and you love them a lot, but you also love everybody in the room because you love being in the room and you love being yourself and you love that you're there and you just love everything about it because you just love. That's unconditional. And when it's centered on yourself, now what you have is charisma, and what you have is a true well, if you will, of energy, but it's kind of a spouting well, like an oil well spouts. That attracts people. That attracts people a lot. Hey, I got a comment. Hey, thank you. So, tips for spiritual expansion: learn to love being you. It doesn't mean love your reflection. It doesn't mean spend an hour making yourself look pretty in the mirror. It means just love the way you look, no matter what time of day or where you are. Like, you just love being you. That's it. The world responds to that. The world does, because you know what? Everybody would love to love themselves. Most people have something about themselves they want to fix or change or wish they didn't have, or wish they could be somebody else, or more money or bigger house or less this or more that, yada, yada, yada. If that describes you, and if you would like to be in love with love and just love being yourself, come to yourbodyneverlies.org, sign up for the YBNL College, and let's get you through that stuff. Because that thing that you think that only you have, that like everybody else gets but you don't, or the thing that's wrong with you that isn't wrong with anybody else, or whatever, it's all nonsense, and I'm going to show you how to straighten it out. It's what I'm good at. Here's a wonderful question. What if someone else wants you to not love yourself? Well, that person is trying to control you in some way. When people love themselves, one thing that happens is you become free to make far more choices. So it's usually when we don't love ourselves completely, when we feel that we're less than or aren't worth something, that we get stuck in a relationship or stuck in a job or stuck believing something we don't really want to believe, or who knows what. When somebody believes that you shouldn't love yourself, they're trying to control you. They're trying to manipulate you in some way. And that doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It just means that they don't really have a lot of information about, well, for one thing, they probably don't love themselves. And so you loving yourself is like confusing. When someone doesn't want us to be ourselves, it's because there's something within themselves that they don't feel comfortable with. So the real key is get them to the college so that they can work that stuff out, because that's what we're about. Yes, thank you. Exactly. You're welcome. Let's see. There are a couple of people watching. This is way fun. If you have any more questions, I would love to answer them. I think I answered that. But when you create that torus donut of love energy within yourself and you start radiating out, there's no end to what you can do, because once you tune in and can feel that energy, and you can feel how your energy is, radiating out, you can ride it. So if you send out a love energy wave, you can sort of like ping somebody, and then when the wave bounces back at you, you can totally tell how much they love themselves, and you can totally tell if they are enjoying you or not. Like sometimes when I meet people, if their body language doesn't line up with what they're saying, I'll like just love them really quick, then pull it back, kind of like a ping. And what gets returned, how that love wave returns to me, tells me what's going on with that person. Because when love bounces off of things, it picks up information, and that's another thing you get to learn at the college. So that'll be a lot of fun. But see, the Taurus donut, the Ankh, loving ourselves. That's great tips for spiritual expansion. I am a technical spiritual trainer. I'm not very religious. I'm not into ritual. I would like to know how things work. That's just, I want to know. I would like to know. I choose to know. And after 30 years, I have figured a few things out. And that's what I'd love to share with you. The piece about this is the only way to have real charisma, is to love being yourself. If you don't love being yourself, then other people, they're just not gonna. Well, they're not gonna feel any charisma, because charisma is love. So there's another question here. Is it similar if you feel uncomfortable with someone loving you? When I have felt uncomfortable with somebody loving me, it's because they're loving an idea of me and not actually me. So lots of times, let me see if this is a question coming in from the college. Oh, it's my anniversary today. Yay, 5 years. It's not comfortable when someone loves an idea of who you are rather than who you actually are. So when someone actually loves us for who we are, that's totally comfortable. There's no reason for that to be uncomfortable. But if someone attaches, if you are in a happy marriage with children, and the kid at the grocery store bagging your groceries gets a crush on you, he's not loving you. He's loving his idea of you. He doesn't know you. But what if he gets to know you and he has a big crush on you, and that gets uncomfortable? Well, first of all, there's lessons to be learned. And second of all, love isn't conditional. Real love isn't conditional. So if somebody is loving you, you can just thank them and move on. Why get stuck with it? And I don't know how else to put that, but if it's someone really loves you, you can just acknowledge it and say, well, thank you. I love the love. Thanks. And move on. And, as an example, take it from the other side. When you're at the grocery store or getting coffee or seeing your friends, like, don't you love them? Have you ever just loved a stranger just because they were nice, or just been attracted to somebody because they look good? And whoops, you can love them without ever getting entangled, and you can let somebody love you without getting entangled too. But when it's real love, and I've had plenty of really super loving platonic relationships, it just doesn't matter. The love is there when they're in your presence. You feel the love and it's awesome. And then when they're not in your presence, yeah, you might still feel it if you tune into them. But otherwise, you're just living your life and whatever. You don't need entanglements because ultimately there is no other. So if someone's loving you in a way that makes you feel like they're an other, or makes you feel like there's distance, it's because they're loving an idea of you and not actually loving you. So, that makes sense. Absolutely. Yay. I'm glad you liked my answer. Well, I started to say that I am a technical teacher. So I'm totally into spiritual expansion. I'm very much into intuition and the magical things that we can do when we're tuned in and loving. I'm very much to the technical side of it. I'm not interested in ritual or the names of gods or anything like that. That's, I am about us being alive and having an ability to love and an ability to perceive things and interact with things in ways far beyond what we've been taught was acceptable for humans. So, if I can tune into a friend of mine on the other side of the country and just, tune in and go, man, I really would love to know how you're doing. And then the phone rings because they're calling me, like that's a fun skill. It's a great skill. And, you want to call it intuition or connection or whatever else. That's what I'm about. So on that word, I'll just say that when it comes to spiritual expansion, and especially at the YBNL College, the real key to everything is to keep it win-win. So, if you're loving somebody, you're loving them because it's good for them, like they're enjoying it. If someone's not enjoying your attention, put your attention somewhere else. The YBNL College is about win-win. Everything we learn to do is about service. So I can teach you amazing ways to manifest things. I've manifested months of free rent. I've manifested cars. I've manifested all kinds of wild stuff that I didn't have to pay for simply because, I understand creative visualization and I understand the power of love and I understand the power of acceptance. But I also understand that it has to be about service, and it has to be, has to be is a terrible way to put it, but service is the key to everything. Service is yoga. When you do good for others, when you do good for the world, that's in a way that's also doing good for you, the world lines up with you and gives you abilities that are truly incredible. So we have another question here, maybe. Absolutely. I love that. Yay. Okay. So if you are a college student, you could call in your questions on the YBNL hotline. Otherwise, you can continue to chat in here. And if there's not any more questions, I'm actually going to probably call it a day. Yes, service, heart. Service is everything. Oh, MB, you were here last week. Thank you for chiming in. I don't know if you sent me a note via yourbodyneverlies.org, but that was down last week and it just got fixed a couple days ago. So any messages I got for a period of about 10 or 12 days just went into the ethers. So I do not have an email address for you. So try again. I will get it, and I will send you the link so that you can get into the college. We'd love to see you there. And yeah, for sure. Good. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, looks like I've got a new student coming into the college today, so I better get on that. Although it is my wedding anniversary, so I'm actually going to take the rest of the day off. So you'll get into the college tomorrow, I promise. And meanwhile, you'll have a wonderful day. And if you do practice this idea of loving yourself, it's a feeling. It's not a thought. It's a feeling in your body of joy. And typically what happens when we go to feel the joy of being ourselves, we get an internal response. And this is part of the college too. That internal response is going to feed you a reason for why you shouldn't love yourself. So, well, what about the time you stole candy in third grade? Or what about the time you pulled Susie's hair? Or it could be heavier things. Don't ignore that, right? Engage with that. When your mind or your internal response, your intuition comes up with why you shouldn't love yourself, listen to it, acknowledge it, and love yourself anyway, because you can love yourself, warts and all, the ugly history, man, the stuff I could tell you about the things I did, you would probably just blow your mind. But loving who you are today is different than loving who you used to be, because who you used to be doesn't exist anymore, right? And all those chatterbox things are all about who you used to be. Who you are today is a different perspective who probably wouldn't do those things. I mean, you learned those lessons. So just love yourself anyway. Love that you learned those lessons, and notice that every time you do, you're going to feel a little more love. And every time you do, your shoulders are going to drop a little more. And if you do nothing else, well, in the West, we're not really set up to not do anything else. But just this as a practice can really create a lot of positive change. So I'm looking forward to seeing you at the college. And I think that's it for today. Thank you so much. I guess maybe I'll see you next week. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions. Oh, also, tomorrow I do a live stream for the Your Body Never Lies Play Shop. So if you are doing the Play Shop and have a question, you can go to my other channel and catch the live stream there tomorrow morning. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day. And yeah, stay in service and stay in love. Ciao.